went into the investigation determined to give immunity to people instead of getting a warrant. You gave immunity to people that you would need to make a case if a case were going to be made.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the one and only Congressman from the great state of Texas, Louie Gohmert, Vice Chair of the House Crime, Terrorism, and Homeland Security Committee. That was at the hearing at the Oversight Committee yesterday, which we've already talked so much about. Louie Gohmert and the others did such a great job. Congressman, welcome.
Well, always good to talk to you, Steve. But, you know, it was quite a frustrating hearing, and I think you and I have talked about it before, but, you know, I felt like Comey was coming in, was going to be a stand-up guy, do the right thing, but I'm not seeing any evidence of that in what's gone on with Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, well, you were talking to him, and that was part of the exchange you had with him. I mean, he gave Cheryl Mills immunity basically to get her laptop. And as you pointed out, as a former judge, you know, you don't have to give, so you give her a subpoena for that laptop. You don't give her immunity to get the laptop. And he had no answer to you. He had no answer to any of the Republican congressmen up there.
And actually, it's even worse if you give immunity in order to get the laptop, because that involves negotiation, and they had a deal typed up. Well, if you're working out a deal for immunity, but you're concerned that things on the laptop might actually lead to something else, you're protecting Hillary Clinton, you go ahead and do exactly what she did, and that was delete things that she felt would be harmful. So not only did it not help to give her immunity to get the laptop, it actually hurt, because if they had, I mean, I've signed search warrants where law officers were afraid that evidence was going to be destroyed and there was probable cause to believe it. Then I signed that order. They don't wait to negotiate about turning over a laptop. They go get it. And then that eliminates the chance that they've got time to destroy what's on the laptop. And one of the things that people don't hear about, and I'm surprised when I run into so many lawyers that have never heard of the doctrine of spoliation. But somebody that tries a lot of cases, like I have, civil cases, criminal cases, it's a doctrine called spoliation. Spoliation is a doctrine whereby it's one of the very limited examples where a judge may instruct a jury that they can consider a lack of evidence against the party that had the evidence, because under the rule of spoliation, if a party has important evidence that is destroyed or lost while in the possession of that party, the judge has discretion, but he can instruct the jury, you may consider that as evidence of intent or evidence of guilt. You know, Comey says, well, there's no evidence of guilt. The fact that stuff is destroyed while in your possession that could either prove your innocence or prove your guilt is evidence of intent. It's evidence of guilt.
Yeah, like I said, I don't even know what to think of this man anymore. I used to put him on a pedestal. I thought he was a man of integrity, certainly a man of knowledge. And what Congressman,
look at what we found out in the last week. We've now found out that, and it didn't faze him. He didn't seem to be affected by it at all. 1,000 emails went between the CIA Director Petraeus and Secretary Clinton on her unsecured server. Yeah. You know there was classified information on there. Had to be. And, you know, golly, those were all destroyed so we could never see what they were. Well, I mean, that is evidence of intent. It's evidence of guilty mental status. It's evidence of guilt.
Absolutely. And I urge everyone to stick around. Watch my Give Me 5 at the end of this hour, because I go in depth with more great questioning from the congressional panel to Comey, who was just clueless. All right. Let me add one more question to you. He told Darrell Issa he didn't know the process. He didn't know who had to be consulted or sign off on granting federal immunity to a witness. How is that possible? He's the head of the FBI.
Well, he acknowledged, you know, that his role was not to decide what a reasonable prosecutor would or would not do.
Right, you mentioned that to him. Yep, you mentioned that.
As FBI director, his job is to gather the evidence, give it to the prosecutors, and only the DOJ can give immunity. And it was ridiculous, but they made us go into a secret review of the immunity documents before they would allow us to read them. But Daryl and I were in there side by side going through the immunity documents.
Incredible. All right, let me play a soundbite from you from the president yesterday, after you guys in the House and then in the Senate first actually overrode the president's veto of the 9/11 victims bill. Here he is.
I didn't expect it, because voting, if you're perceived as voting against 9/11 families right before an election, not surprisingly, that's a hard vote for people to take. But it would have been the right thing to do. I'm concerned, and this is not just my concern. General Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, said this is a bad idea. Secretary of Defense said it was a bad idea. And then we found out some of the people who voted for it said, frankly, we didn't know what was in it. And there was no debate of it. And it was basically a political vote.
That he has done that before. I don't remember the bill. Obviously, it was not an override, but he has said that before. That people have come up to me and said they didn't really want to do it. Or they don't. In other words, they come to him and say, "Mr. President, we didn't even know it was in the bill. Give me a break with this guy already."
Yeah, no kidding. He puts a lot of pressure. We have more people, a lot more often, that say, "Look, I wanted to vote with you guys, but our party, Obama made it clear. Pelosi made it clear, we vote with you. They're coming after us in our seats. So sorry, guys, couldn't vote with you. It's really, I'm glad you did what you did." So that happens more often than what he's talking about. But this wasn't, to me, a political vote. This was the right thing to do. And, I wish people had had enough political courage over the last 7.5 years to override his veto numerous times. And in fact, like with the CR we just passed late last night.
Yeah, the 10-day.
I wish more people had had the courage to say, no, we're not going to let the president turn over the internet to people that are going to destroy it. No. I wish there were a lot more courageous stands, but Harry Reid, being the majority leader de facto, apparently, in the Senate, made clear he did not want anything provided that the Republicans believe in. It had to be strictly funding all those things that the Democrats have been able to add up over
and the leadership in the Senate has no backbone. Let me ask you a question here. There was a hacked email that came to light. Colin Powell and a former business partner, it was leaked Tuesday evening, revealing more than a year of exchanges between these two, Colin Powell and one of his, Jeffrey Leeds, a New York financier. Anyway, the emails, this goes back to March of 2015, and they agreed on Clinton's poor health as far back as then. Leeds suggested that he had learned of the issue from a Democratic senator, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, who's a huge Clinton supporter, and he said that she doesn't look good. Powell wrote in one of the messages, she's working herself to death. And this guy Leeds said that we were both, Whitehouse told him we were both giving speeches at the same event a few months back, and she could barely climb up the podium steps. What do you think of her health? I mean, do you think she's very ill?
I don't know. She came across as not being ill during the debate.
True.
But Kennedy, we know that he was taking
painkillers,
massive pharmaceutical cocktails. They would say his medicine cocktails, and as he himself said, that's why Khrushchev just really manhandled him when they met in Vienna,
right?
As he was on all that medication. But I don't know. But what I do know is that Hillary would not be a suitable commander-in-chief. She says she wants to retrain local police the way the FBI and our soldiers have been retrained.
Yeah, that means tie their hands. Congressman, we're out of time. Tie their hands. Yep. Hey, listen, great to speak to you, sir. Up next, by the way, your colleague Marsha Blackburn is next, folks, so keep it where it is. Thank you, Congressman. Once again, always great to talk to you.